The Buzzard, Gary D., John Lanigan, Cleveland radio ruled and rocked the airwaves back in the 1960s and 70s, making headlines and history. Mike Olszewski has captured stories of the men behind the microphone, including himself, in Cleveland Radio Tales, and he's here to share a few of them today. So welcome back to the show.
It's great to be back here, Lori. Great to see you.
All right. Well, back in the day, WMMS was the king. Nobody could even touch them, could they?
Oh, there was no question about it. You know, the funny thing was, it was the vision of a guy named Milton Maltz. And WMMS had been around for a while, but Milton Maltz came to Cleveland, fell in love with the city, and said, you know what? These guys are all hippies. They're kind of anti-establishment, but I bet we can work with them. Let's capture the essence of what they're talking about. And it became a powerhouse. It became a monolith. It was the most important radio station in the country.
Oh, that's what I listened to.
Sure.
And how about the Vietnam War thing?
Well, that was the whole thing. You know, Vietnam kind of brought together the whole counterculture, you know, and at one time, radio stations were even interrupting the programming to say when the with the lottery for the draft was going on. It was the unifying force, and radio was sort of our backyard fence.
Okay, and he didn't allow them to advertise on the station, though, right?
He did not. He did not allow the. Actually, it was a lot of people at the station said we cannot allow the U.S. Army, even though the station needed the money at that time. They said we cannot allow the U.S. Army to, actually advertise on our radio station because kids would be joining up. They didn't have a job, and they'd be going on to Vietnam. Yeah. So it was a bold move, but hey, they took it. And
talk radio wasn't dead during this time either, right?
Oh, brother.
Could be really loud with one DJ in particular, correct?
Well, early 1970s, WERE was, they had Bill Randall and all that sort of thing. But in 1972, they changed to a format called People Power. Highly controversial. #1 ratings, they couldn't sell it because it was so controversial. And the most controversial guy of them all was Gary D., of course. Gary D., the mouth of the Cuyahoga, I guess you could call him, the Fresno Flash. And he came into town and really put us on its ear.
Did he actually do a show naked?
He did a show naked, as did Howie Lund. And yeah, they actually did. In fact, there's a picture of old Howie doing the show nude. It was theater of the mind in so many ways, but it was wonderful. Gary tried to come off as being sort of like this backwoods Appalachian and all that sort of thing. The thing was, he was a brilliant guy because he had a master's degree, he taught school, and the joke was, he would say these controversial things, these outrageous things. The joke was how many people called in to agree with him.
Oh,
that was the joke.
So he had lots of stories on the air, huh?
Brother, did he ever. Yes. Of course, he was also married to Liz Richards, who was part of the Morning Exchange, and they were fodder for great gossip.
And we know that, from War of the Worlds kind of thing, that radio can sometimes make an imaginary world that people really buy into.
Yeah, and it's funny because when TV first came out, a lot of people said they didn't want to go to TV because the pictures were better on radio. That just shows the power of imagination. Certainly, the WMS had its own War of the Worlds. We all had, most of the stations had phony Christmas parades. Ray Hoffman, the WERE, had Celebrity Donuts, which is a phony donut shop. But the king of them all was Wayne Mack. Wayne Mack was on the radio, and he used to have the Crystal Ballroom, and he would have these wonderful bands playing at the Crystal Ballroom, the most elegant ballroom on the shores of Lake Erie. And people would get in their car, they'd drive around for hours looking for this Crystal Ballroom. There was no Crystal Ballroom. It was just in their heads.
Did he ever give directions?
No, he never did. He just said it was on the shores of Lake Erie, and that covers a lot of ground.
He even did a live performance from the Crystal Shore Room?
There was a famous story where he had Barbara Streisand playing with, oh gosh, I forget the name of the
Harry James.
That was it, Harry James. And everybody wanted to see Harry James, play with Barbara Streisand. Harry had been dead for 10 years. So that was going to be a pretty tough one to fill.
But people still bought into it, huh?
Exactly, sure. He just played the record of Barbara Streisand playing with Harry James. So.
How about you? You were instrumental in this part of the time frame on radio?
My wife Janice and I are co-authors of Cleveland Radio Tales, and I'll tell you what, we were very honored to have seen a lot of that firsthand. Did we know something was special? Yeah, we did. And I knew that when I went into work every day that I was never going to have another job that was as good as this. But every day there was something new, something different, sometimes something difficult, but at the same time, always something just memorable.
What station were you on?
Well, I was on WERE in the beginning, and then when I got the call to go to WMMS, I said, try to stop me.
Oh, yeah.
There's plenty more for many more books, and I'm sure they'll be coming our way, too.
All right. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Lori.
In Mike's book, Cleveland Radio Tales, there are stories and personalities and events that would take you back in time and let you relive the rockin' and rollin' days of Cleveland radio. My thanks to Mike for sharing a few of those stories with us today.
To learn more or to order the book, call Gray & Company Publishers at 216-431-2665 or log on to www.graco.com.